And I actually have been on blood pressure medication for years, and after the transplant, I'm off my blood pressure
Yay! Yes!
medication.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Yes, just to see you thriving is just a blessing, you know. Welcome to this edition of My Life as a Kidney Donor. Today I'm here with my niece. Her name's Samantha, and in last December, on December 20th, 2016, I was privileged enough to give her one of my kidneys. We decided some people might want to be kidney donors, so we wanted to put this together to help people so that they would have information from the kidney donor and the transplant point of view. So I have a few questions for Samantha, and she's going to answer them. And then she has questions for me, and I will answer them as well. So my first question for Samantha is, how old were you when you found out you had lupus?
So I was diagnosed at age 11, and I was going into the 6th grade at the time. So I was clueless as to what lupus was, hadn't heard of it. It was fairly new, like it had not really been talked about at that time. I'm sure doctors knew about, physicians knew about it, but really hadn't been talked about. So my family and I hadn't heard about it at all. It was very new to us, very strange. I had to do a
Yes,
lot of research.
you were very young.
Yes.
I can't even imagine how that would have felt like. And so that leads to my next question. Explain what lupus is and how it affects your body.
So I think I got the best explanation when I was my youngest, because with pediatric patients, they always give you like the simplest form of whatever they're trying to tell you. So how I was explained as a child, they told me that lupus basically is an autoimmune disease, which it attacks your immune system. Everyone else's immune system is essentially fighting when it has a disease or if it has a sickness. So if you catch a common cold, your immune system fights that common cold. If you were diagnosed with something, your immune system shoots into action and fights whatever disease or thing that you have going on. And a person with an autoimmune disease, their immune system is overactive. So even when they don't have anything to fight, they don't have a cold, they don't have any diseases, they don't have anything going on in their body, their immune system's still working. It's still fighting, but it's fighting itself. So therefore, it fights itself and fights off the good cells in the body, the white blood cells that protect from immune compromised situations like colds and things like that. And when you do have that, there's not enough of those white blood cells to fight off for you. So it weakens your immune system because it's fighting itself and it's constantly fighting itself. There's never a time where it stops fighting. So it's always acting, and it weakens you to the point where you just don't have enough of those cells to fight off. And that essentially causes a bunch of different symptoms that are different for each lupus patient. Does that answer the question, or would you want me to go into?
Yes. Tell us some of the symptoms that you had.
Okay. So perfect. So as I said, it's different for different people because it acts differently in different people's bodies. My particular symptoms, I would get a lot of swelling in my joints, my ankles. I would get a lot of joint pain. I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at the time, and my hands would get stuck closed, or my feet would have a hard time like moving. My ankles would get really stiff. I also would just get really weak to the point of not being able to walk very well, or I couldn't play sports and stuff. Sometimes I would have a hard time and have to call out for my sports activities. And I was a very active child. I was in gymnastics, basketball, swimming, soccer, and dance. So it was really hard sometimes because I wasn't able to do those activities that I loved. Contact sports were pretty hard on me because if I got hit or bumped or anything like that, I would feel it a lot more than probably another child who could just, brush it off and move on. I would also sometimes have problems sleeping. Um, I was experiencing hair loss a lot. Like I would wash my hair and it would come out in chunks sometimes. I also had a really tender scalp. Even just brushing my hair with a brush myself would hurt and I would cry. Those were the symptoms that I experienced most when I was initially diagnosed. But as you have it for some time, you do get other things. Your body develops more tolerance or intolerance to things, so you can experience other things along the way.
That's so hard to hear. My next question is, when did you find out your kidneys were going down?
So I was graciously given a kidney by you in 2016, and I knew that my kidneys were looking bad in 2014. Upon diagnosis, actually, they told my parents that because my lupus, so there's different types of lupus, and lupus affects different parts of the body differently. The one I have affects my kidneys directly, so it's lupus nephritis. There's other people. I just met a girl who has lupus that affects her lungs, and she needs a double lung transplant. So it affects people's bodies differently, and because your immune system is your whole body pretty much. So I knew when I was diagnosed that it was affecting my kidneys. So whenever I urinate, protein leaks through my kidneys into my urine. So I'm losing protein through my kidneys, which is damaging my kidneys. So I knew when I was diagnosed that that was what was going on. And they said it probably won't affect me until I'm older. But then when they really started to affect me, when I went to my nephrologist and they told me your kidneys are losing function, was in 2014. They didn't tell me, they would give me numbers, percentage numbers, like you have, 20% kidney function or 30% kidney function. And when they first told me, it was pretty high. It was a pretty high, like you have 80% kidney function, which is not that bad. But then they said, this is the time we need to look at things. You need to even look into and start thinking about dialysis. Just because at any time when your kidneys are going bad, anything can happen and it can deteriorate fast. So even though I had 80% at the time, I could have jumped down to 5%. And they said I think they said between 5 and 7 for me. 5 and 7% is like when it's too late, or when the damage is permanent. So in 2014 is when they actually told me to start looking into dialysis treatments and looking at what my salt intake and everything like that. Before, they really weren't giving me much about salt intake, but in 2014, that's when they really cracked down on my diet and activities and looking at things that I'm doing for my kidney.
Once you started dialysis, how long were you on it?
So in 2015, I had an episode of what they think might have been pneumonia, and it was too tough on my kidneys at the time. Because basically, it was so bad. My lungs were filling up with blood and fluid at the same time. So I was having a hard time breathing. And that was hard on the kidney, and that pushed me to go on dialysis sooner. So I went into the hospital for the fluid in my lungs, and they had to intubate me. So I was on a machine to help me breathe. And when I woke, they put you to sleep before they do that. But when I woke up, I was on dialysis. And they told me that this episode was too much for the kidney, and that is why I had to be put on immediate dialysis. So typically when you are transitioning into dialysis, they let you choose if you want to do peritoneal dialysis, which is dialysis at home, or if you want to do hemodialysis, which is in the center. But when I woke up, I had a permacath, which goes in your neck. That's just a temporary thing. And they put me on hemodialysis. So they were doing it in the hospital and then transitioned me to my center. I was on dialysis for a total of a little over a year. So I initially started in center. My in-center treatments were 3 times a week. You have to be on the machine for 4 hours within those 3 days. So every day is 4 hours. They are taking the fluid and toxins out of your body, because that's what your kidney does. Your kidney voids. They're voiding for you. So I started on hemodialysis. I would go to the center 3 times a week. You can choose if you want to do, at my center, you could choose if you wanted to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or you could choose if you wanted Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I chose Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, because I still had to work in order to keep my insurance. So the hardest part about it is after you finish your treatment in center, you're very drained. Your body is exhausted. It's like painful in the sense that it doesn't hurt physically, but like, the effects afterwards are going to leave you you can't do anything. You literally have to go home and rest and sleep, because your body is just not able to even walk to the bathroom. It's just bad.
I'm
I
sorry.
dreaded all my treatments in center because I was young and everyone else in there was older. So I would be awake during my treatments and want to like talk and do stuff, and they would all be sleeping, or they couldn't really relate to my situation because they were all older and were dealing with other things like diabetes and things that went along with it. So it was just really rough in the center. The center that I went to, it's reclining chairs next to each other. They're in a row. It's probably like 10 of them on one side and 10 on the other side, and every person gets a seat. You come at your certain time, you're scheduled a time, and you come at your time, and then they hook you up to the machine, and they turn on the machine. The machine runs for 4 hours. Your time will be different based on what your body needs. Some people were in there for 2 hours, some people were in there for 3, and I think the max was 4 or 5 hours. So I was in there for 4. But if you're awake, you have to find things to do, whether it's play on your phone or talk to people. They do have TV, little TVs hooked up. It's basic cable, so you can watch a movie or the news or something like that. You just put headphones in, but it wasn't fun at all. The nurses come check on you. There are nurses there. I don't know if they're nurses or technicians, but they're the ones who hook you up. They clean your area, and they make sure everything's okay. It was also very sad because sometimes people in there would have would have other medical issues going on and would need um, EMS assistance while they were on the machine. I remember a lady sitting across from me they would always have to call the ambulance for her because she would stop breathing in her sleep on the machine, which was very dangerous. So things like that. I mean, it just wasn't. It was really a sad, unpleasant time. So I did that for a couple months. I think about 6 months, and then I switched to peritoneal dialysis, which your catheter is in your stomach, and you do your treatments at home, and they mail the stuff to your house, and you are in charge of your care. So you meet in the center once a month to go over things with your doctor, and they check on your area, make sure everything's okay. But you do it all yourself. They do training for you, you do your training, and then you're able to administer your treatment. I had to do my treatment 4 times a day, and that's the manual one. Everyone starts on the manual peritoneal, and then um, once your body responds to that a couple of times for at least a month, you can switch to the overnight machine. The only thing with the overnight machine, it does the work for you. You don't have to do anything manual. It does the work for you. You're on the machine, hooked up for 8 hours a day. So typically you do it at night. You hook up, and you're on it for 8 hours. But once you hook up, you can't really do anything else because you can only go as far as the machine will let you go, which when I hooked up, my machine only allowed me to get to my bathroom and to the very edge of my kitchen. So I couldn't even get in my kitchen, to the edge of my kitchen, to the bathroom, into my bedroom. And that's it. So I knew once I hooked up for the night, like I had to be done with everything in my house, no midnight snacks, or they already had to be by my bed. Like you just have to kind of make sure that you have everything, know what you're doing. And it's also a little tough because, like I said, you're doing everything by yourself. So if the machine malfunctions or anything, there's people on call, but you are really in charge. And if you don't get it done, you miss your dialysis treatment for the day, which is bad. As I said, the dialysis is getting rid of your waste, cleaning out your toxins, getting rid of the toxins in your body. And if you don't get rid of those toxins, they build up in your system, and that's when you get sick. So if you miss a treatment, you will get sick. So the only thing is, when you're doing peritoneal, they really evaluate you and screen you and ask you a lot of questions. They come and inspect your home to make sure that it's clean, it's safe, and that no, like if you have animals, that they have a safe place to be while you're doing dialysis, because you cannot have any outside bacteria. You have to wear a mask as you're doing it, gloves to administer some things. They really want like a clean area for you, clean, safe area for you to administer it within your home. So if they come and inspect and it's not what it should be, they either will have to do another inspection and tell you what to clean, or you cannot go on the peritoneal dialysis.
Do you remember the day that I called you and told you that I had been quietly getting tested and that I found out I was a match? Do
Yes.
you do you remember, how did you
Yes,
feel?
it was like the best thing ever. I just remember, like, I just smiling. I cried a little bit. I was just so happy because I did not like dialysis. I mean, nobody likes dialysis. Yes, it's keeping you alive for the moment, but it's just not fun. It really is, it takes up a big portion of your life, and it's, I mean, it's really rough. And me being the age that I was, I mean, I was trying to do things, go out, date, do things with my friends, and enjoy life. And dialysis is not the time. You can't, I mean, it really, really takes a toll on those things. And when you told me, I was, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to have my full life back and do these things. And I was so thankful to you and God, and just, I mean, it was unimaginable in the moment. I don't know how many times I like said thank you, Lord, that day, because I was so happy, and I was in awe, and I was in shock, and I called my mom and like four other people right after. I just didn't know. It was the best feeling ever. It was really, I mean, and I had only been on dialysis for a year, and some people who I knew in the center had been for years and years and years. And I can only imagine if they got a donor, like, because it's just, it was just the best. I can't even thank you enough, ever, ever.
My pleasure. My next question is, what were your feelings the day of surgery?
I was, I wasn't scared because I had been through so many surgeries prior to this. I had 6 fibroid surgeries. I've had biopsies. I've had um, a plethora of other things. I've had transverse myelitis. I've had a lot of things. So I wasn't scared for the procedure. I wasn't scared for anesthesia. I wasn't scared to be cut. The things that were running through my head, I was praying. I was praying the whole time because I just needed everything to be good, and I wanted a calm spirit. But the things that were going through my head was the aftermath, because I read up on like and talked to my transplant coordinator about rejection and the different medications and how often I would be going for blood work. And I just was thinking about the after precautions. I actually met a nurse prior to transplant, like maybe a week prior to our transplant, who told me she had a kidney. She got a kidney from her aunt, and everything was fine. She was she didn't reject, but she started the medications afterwards, ended up not really taking them like she was supposed to, and her kidney rejected. She went back on dialysis, then got another kidney from the transplant list, thought she was doing the right things again, and one of the medications was a little off time wise, and it rejected again, and she had to go back on dialysis. So those kind of things are going through my mind of like, I need to make this time schedule. I need to make sure I'm on these medications. I need to make sure I do this. I don't want any kind of rejection. I don't want them to tell me XYZ. Um, so those were the things that were really going through my mind when the day of. I wasn't scared though. I knew the doctors. I mean, we had been talking to our coordinator. We had met the doctors prior to, so I felt like we were in good hands. It wasn't my first rodeo with surgery, so I was okay. It was just the aftermath.
Yes, I get
Yeah.
it. My next question is, how did you feel when you woke up from surgery?
I, I don't know if I would. I was groggy. I know I was groggy. I can't remember if there was any pain. I don't think so. I think they still had me on enough pain medicine that there was no pain. But um, I was thinking to myself, oh, I can't feel my catheter anymore. Like I was doing peritoneal, and I was so used to my peritoneal catheter being in my abdomen, and I was like, I can't feel my catheter anymore. And it was a weird feeling, but it was like, oh, um, I didn't really like touch around or anything like to see where they put my kidney or what. Like I just kind of was like, it's done, and I'm here, and my family was there, and I asked about you, and I was like, how is Auntie Bernice, and is she okay? And yeah, it was just, um, I was just happy that I woke up and everything was fine. And the nurses seemed
Yes,
happy. Like everyone around me was smiling, so I knew it was okay.
yes, that's great. My next question is, how has life been since surgery?
Amazing. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I live, it's better than even before. I feel much better. I've gotten off some of my medications, even some of my medication that I was taking before the surgery. I'm off of those too. Yeah. people have told me I look great, I feel great.
Yes, you do.
So thank you. So it's been great. It's been great. And I
Thank
started
God.
my YouTube channel. So
Yes, please tell them about your YouTube channel.
yes. So Limitless with Lupus. Limitless with Lupus is my YouTube channel. It talks about my journey from age 11 till now, and ongoing. So it just tells everything that I've been through lupus. So we're touching on the transplant, but I've been through way more things, just because I was diagnosed so young and my body was going through all these things. I mean, there's a list of things, and I've had over 15 surgeries. So it just goes through all of that, and it talks about how to remain positive, because a lot of it, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor or anything, but is 60% or more mental. I think you have to have a strong mindset. I mean, support system goes into that, all strength and everything like that, physical strength. But if you're not strong mentally, your body will not be able to physically recover.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to tell everybody about your channel, Limitless with Lupus, and
Yes.
share that with your family members who have lupus, and subscribe. Check it out.
Subscribe.
My next question is what would you tell people thinking about being kidney donors?
Please do it. If you have any doubts, join. Like, there's support groups for people who were already donors. I would encourage you to look at those. Talk to someone if you know they've been a donor. It's life changing, but not in a negative way. And at the end of the day, you are really helping someone. I would even say saving someone's life, because yes, dialysis, you can be on dialysis and still live, but it's not the your full life. It's not where you could be. It's not what you could be doing. It's not. I mean, there's so many restrictions. I'm a swimmer. I swam competitively for 4 years. I love swimming. When I was on dialysis, you can't swim because that chlorine and water cannot touch your catheters or your anything that has to do with dialysis. So your fistula, everything. Even with your fistula, if you have a fistula, you can't lift certain things with that arm. You can't, get blood pressure done on that arm. You can't have people touch certain things with that arm. It's just very limiting. And you would be providing that person with the best gift of a full life again. And they would just be able to redo everything, because now you've given them that chance to do that. So if you're thinking about it, I would say, don't hesitate, just do it. If you're religious, pray about it. God will let you know if that's the right thing for you to do. But it's going to change someone's life in a major way. And it's very, my aunt can say, I believe that it's very gratifying.
Yes, it is very, very rewarding. Very rewarding.
Yeah.
My last question is, what advice do you have for anyone who suffers from lupus?
I'm going to say my number one gem is the glass is always half full. You may sit there and be in the most amount of pain that you've ever felt, or thinking, why is this happening to me and not this person or that person? Or why do I have to do this? You have an opportunity by having this to help someone else go through it, just like I'm doing. Once you get through whatever you're going through, you can help someone else go through it. Not even that. Look at it this way. We are all strong human beings. God made us strong human beings, but you have to be one of the strongest human beings, because you're going through this and you're making it. Not a lot of people can do that. So when you're getting down on yourself, when you're like, oh, I can't handle this, like it's too much, just think already in your mind you got it, because you're strong enough to handle it. You're made, built, wonderfully made, and strong enough to handle it. And then there's always someone out there who's going through worse than you are. Think of the positives that are already going on in your life. You have both legs, both arms. You can breathe. You can still smile. Just anything positive. You might, maybe you have family, mom, dad, a baby, who knows, but those are the positive things. And if you feed your mind and your body with positive, it pushes out the negative. I'm not saying that you're not gonna still be laid up in the hospital or in pain or anything like that. It's still gonna be there, but the positive can mask that and help you get through it. So that's my biggest piece of advice. And then if my aunt told me this, support groups, support groups, support groups. Even if you think like they're probably not gonna help me, or it's useless, or I don't like hearing about other people's problems, I don't want to tell them about mine. They're really helpful. They're extremely helpful. There are people out there going through the same thing. There are people out there going through different things with the same type of disease. And it's really helpful to learn about that and see maybe how to deal with it differently, or like what to expect. So it's just really helpful. I just mentioned I met a girl and watched her YouTube channel on her double lung transplant, what she's going through. And, it helps me put my situation into perspective. So that's my advice.
What thoughts and feelings did you have going through the decision-making process of becoming a donor?
Okay, so for me, it was when my middle son, Jonathan, and I came to visit you, and I saw all the boxes and all of the equipment that you use for your peritoneal dialysis, and just the fact that you were weaker, you weren't looking really healthy, and I felt really bad for you. And I thought, man, there's got to be something that I can do, because your mother had been asking ahead of time to see if anybody could be a match for the family or friends. So I was like, well, we've been praying about it. What if I'm the answer? So that was when I decided, yes, I will go ahead and get tested.
Okay. Thank God for you and that. What were some of the conversations you had, or any conversations that you had with your kids or family prior to the surgery?
Okay, so when I was testing, I only told 2 people. My younger sister, we're close in age, so we call each other's twin, and then my husband, because that's my life partner, and that's a major decision. So those are the only 2 people that I told. I didn't want to tell a lot of people. I didn't want to tell my children because I didn't want to stress them out for too long of a period. I didn't want to tell some of my close friends because of heart issues that I had. They would vehemently, dissuade me from doing it. So I didn't want to tell them. And so I didn't tell anybody or even you, because I didn't want to get your hopes up, false hope. I can't do that to a person. So I didn't tell anybody till after I found out I was a match. Then I called you and told you, and you called your mom, and she was in Asia at 4 a.m. in the morning, and she was crying. She called me, and you were crying actually when I told you.
Yes.
You were happy, but then you also were crying a little bit. And so, yes, that's when I told everybody. And,
okay.
For my children, my oldest son, he was kind of walking around the room and asking me questions, because you could tell he was very concerned. My middle son, who was close to you and spends time with you, was like, oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you get to do this for her. And then my youngest daughter was crying. She was 19 at the time, and she was crying because she was thinking, what if something happened to me while I was in OR? She would not have a mother. So those were the 3 different reactions I got from my children.
Very natural. Very natural. My last question is, what is life like after donation? Like, any challenges, any hard, like, anything that has like been difficult for you, or just a big life change?
I would say just getting through the healing process. There are different things that you go through, and I have videos on that address those things. You know, there are things like induration that you have, which is tissue that pulls to one side and it looks kind of lopsided. You have fascia. I had to deal with fascia, which is like a tissue that's around a muscle, and I thought I had like a lump, and it wasn't. So I keep going back to the doctor for those different things, but it was all part of the healing process and different things that you would get. So I have documented that on video. The other thing that happened right away, because they have you take your blood pressure before, a whole week before surgery. And after surgery, your blood pressure starts to go up because your body is in distress. So I have to be on lisinopril for a while, just a little while, and then I got weaned off of that, and now I just periodically will check my blood pressure. But I think because I exercise and I eat right and stuff, my pressure is completely normal, and I just check it periodically just to make sure that everything is okay. And then the only medications, I don't take any medications. I just my multivitamins and fish oil. That's the only thing I take every day.
That is so amazing. And I actually have been on blood pressure medication for years, and after the transplant, I'm off of my blood pressure medication.
Yay! Yes! That's awesome.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Yes, just to see you thriving is just a blessing. You know, there are a lot of times I forget that I've donated one of my kidneys. Seriously, because life is so normal that I forget. And I took a spill a few months ago. Like I missed 2 steps going down at work, and I hit hard. And as I was hitting the wall, all I could think about was, I'm not supposed to have contact, like impact. And thankfully, it was my left side, which the left kidney was the one that was taken, and I didn't hit the right side. So that I was thankful about that. But yeah, that's impact sports is what they tell you don't want to do, because they don't want you to bruise your kidney, and you know. But people do. I have people in our support group that have climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with since it wasn't even a year after transplant.
Wow.
And so I just say, when you're going to do those things, just be careful.
Work out daily.
Oh yes, I do. I work out. I love to work out. And so yes, I work out. I work out to your mom's workout, Kukua dance workout, or Kukua fitness. And I get on the treadmill. I make sure I'm walking all the time. So yes, it's very important, because as we get older, our body changes and we're not able to bounce back as fast as younger people.
Yes.
So whereas my blood pressure, when I was all the way through up to my 40s, was like 100/70. I can't keep that kind of blood pressure. Not in my, I just can't. So it's just important that we make sure we're constantly moving. Thank you so much. And I'm going to say it again. Everybody subscribe and hit that bell so that you get notification to Limitless with Lupus, and also 50 something. Thank you, Sammy. And it just blesses me, makes me so happy to see you just thriving. So.
Thank you, Auntie. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to thank you for the rest of my life. So thank you.
That's fine. Living right is the best things I could ever get. So
yes.
I'm excited about that. And like I always say, doing something is better than nothing. Until next time.